I'm here to talk about how Element AI helps people work smarter, and specifically we'll talk about some applications in the pharmaceutical industry, and more specifically an application that enables quality specialists in pharmaceutical to do their job more efficiently and effectively. Just a little bit of background and introduction on Element AI. I think you'll find this story quite interesting and compelling. Element AI is a company that's 3 years old, but we've grown quite quickly over those 3 years. We fueled that growth by raising over $300 million from some of the biggest names in technology and business process consulting, such as NVIDIA, McKinsey Consulting, Microsoft Ventures, those types of folks. We've assembled a team of over 100 PhDs on staff who are really doing a lot of research and development around the core AI components that we'll talk about in just a few minutes. As well, we've established offices around the globe to service customers in a variety of industries and verticals. The founders of Element AI bring a very unique combination of business and enterprise software skill and deep learning research to the table, and ties to the academic community to enable that cutting edge research. Yoshua Bengio is one of the founders, really one of the pioneers in deep learning over the past several years, and he partnered up with JF Gagne and a small team of entrepreneurs who have a lot of experience in supply chain and enterprise software to really try to accomplish one major goal, which is to productionize artificial intelligence applications for enterprise customers. This has been quite a bit of a journey over the past 3 years, and we think we can really help our customers accelerate that journey from pilots and proof of concepts to enterprise software and productionized application of artificial intelligence tools, and really make a big difference in business outcomes. Also, it's very important to talk about some of the values, or understand some of the values of our organization. We have quite a big community and strong ties to academic research and academic enablement. And then beyond that, we also really have a strong focus on the human-centered elements of AI and humans working together. So you'll find that we have a people-first mindset. We really work very hard to design systems that enable and augment the human experience, and really add a lot to the value that humans bring to the processes they're managing in the enterprise. So that's a bit about our organization. And when we think about where we're going to spend our money, do our research, and where we're most likely to make the biggest impact for our clients, we try to align that effort to major themes and major opportunities that our clients face. This is one example that we see in the manufacturing environment, for example. Skilled manufacturing production roles are estimated to be 3 times more difficult to fill by 2021. There are some other facts and figures around the millions of jobs for skilled workers that should go unfilled by 2025 in North America, and this comes from studies by outfits like Deloitte, McKinsey, and IBM. So we really believe that this is a challenge manufacturers are going to face that AI can really impact and help to solve. So we'll go into a little bit more detail on that here. So as we said, we try to understand these business cases, and then we bring the components and the research to the table to try to solve them. And this slide is an illustration of how we do that. In our organization, we have different types of research. We have core research, which is very closely tied to academic, cutting-edge type of research. Then we have applied research teams that take that information, and that development, and apply it to specific industries and use cases, so that we can further that evolution down the path of productionizing and bringing products to market for our customers. So what you'll see is that we have teams involved in core components and disciplines in artificial intelligence, in areas like natural language processing, explainability, operations research, and time series modeling. We really focus a lot on the human aspects and the human interface between the AI and the humans' work processes. So once we develop those solutions and craft that research around a business case, we're able to put those pieces together and develop a specific product. So in this example, we're going to talk about Knowledge Scout, and even more specifically, Knowledge Scout for enabling quality specialists in a manufacturing environment. The goal with this approach is to speed up the time to market for something that is really complex and highly advanced from a technical perspective. On the left-hand side of the screen here, there are just a few challenges. On top of the skills gap, on top of the challenge of enabling the new workforce in a high-tech manufacturing environment, we also know that there's vast amounts of data out there that those people need to access and understand. We know that knowledge transfer is difficult, both across functions and roles and responsibilities, but also across skill levels as the older workforce moves on, retires, and takes that information that's in their head out the door with them. We know that resolving and investigating complex quality issues or other business issues is inefficient and very difficult. And we know that, especially, for example, in the pharmaceutical business, there's uncompromising regulatory and compliance imperatives. And this is true in other industries as well. So Knowledge Scout really tries to solve these specific challenges by bringing contextually relevant information to the worker who's trying to perform a complex investigation, accelerate that knowledge transfer, allow people to share that information much more quickly and efficiently. And the interesting part about the tool also is that it's AI powered. And what does that really mean? It continuously learns. We'll talk a little bit more in detail about how the system learns as the human interacts with the system over time. What we're trying to do really is reduce the cost of compliance with this solution, reduce the investigation and resolution time, enable that knowledge transfer, and really reduce the time that employees have to spend on investigative processes and allow them to do much more high-value activities related to their engineering responsibilities. If we dig a little bit deeper into a specific challenge we've solved for one of our customers, if we look at the quality specialist and investigation role, we have one major goal: reduce the duration of the deviation investigation. We have customers that tell us that deviations take a matter of weeks, not days, and we believe strongly that we can reduce that down to days for sure, and really maybe 30, 40, 50% less time invested to solve these deviations. Of course, that benefit will depend heavily on the use case and on the specific business case, but we're talking about major impact across an organization in terms of efficiency and investigations. So now I'll begin to go a little bit into the product itself. The product itself presents a very simple, easy to use user interface. It's very intuitive and very understandable from the moment you open it. And I ask a very simple question: what are you looking for? So you have a challenge on hand, and that could be related to an equipment failure, a quality problem, a test result, and you want to just give that system a natural language question around what you're looking for. You can ask questions around, you can ask questions that are pretty simple in terms of how many, how much, show me examples of, and these types of things. And the system will understand a bit about the natural language. It will understand the natural language that you're presenting, and it will begin to understand exactly what you're looking for over time. Three major features of the solution here that are going to come into play once I type that question into the system. One is the intuitive search. There's a very advanced natural language processing capability and a deep knowledge graph behind the system. The other is AI-powered recommendation. So it's really going to automatically pull from similar deviation cases or other data sources, depending on what data sources we can hook up to the system. And it's going to really understand the context of your question. It's going to also understand, based on your question, how to present the correct information to you. So a certain question might result in a chart or a graph or a summary or something around numbers. A more complex question might result in a few examples of relevant reports that you would want to examine. And then the very powerful tool here is going to be the explainability component that gives you a sense of why that particular piece of information was presented to you. So you will be able to have visibility into the reason that those particular deviation reports were presented based on the question you answered. Then feedback capture is also a very important element, and this really differentiates general search or filtering tools from an AI-powered solution. As a quality specialist interacts with the system, they're allowed to give the system feedback on the relevance of the information that was returned. That information and feedback from the user can further inform the model, and the model can improve over time to ensure that it becomes more accurate and relevant for the users over time. This is a very important feature that really drives home that AI-powered component of this solution. So on the left-hand side, we have the problems that we've identified previously, and we have the benefits that we're looking for. So I won't repeat those, but I'll give you a few screenshots and slides to illustrate a deeper look at the product here. As a quality analyst, I can enter that first question. The system's going to know a lot about the relationship between my question and the information within the system. And then I can actually save a session, save the information that comes back to me so that I can use it in my work process to resolve this deviation. So there's some specific functionality that allows me to save this information in my workflow, share it with people, and use it through the course of the deviation, no matter how long that might last. In this case, in this example, the natural language processing is going to go out and find similar deviations in the deviation database or whatever source system we have out there. It may bring back relevant information from other data sources as well. In this situation, the quality analyst is going to look at those, understand which ones are relevant, and bookmark the ones that are most important to them. In fact, they may at this point discard some that are not as relevant, and this will continually teach the model and train the system to perform better over time. As I said before, this is a great example of how the natural language processing and the search engine will understand what you're looking for and present that data in a format that is relevant to your question. In this case, someone asked a simple question around a number. How many deviations occurred related to this particular deviation that I'm working on? This might be interesting because it will give them a sense of the sample size that they can go and explore and look at to help to try to solve the complex investigation. It may just give them a sense of how common this problem is. Other functions and features of the solution can be expanded beyond the simple investigation to also encompass the ability to discover and unlock new issues throughout the course of the investigation, or to enable the system to kick off a new issue based on information that it's connected to. So for example, the analyst here can quickly review similar root causes that might be added to the information in the database upon completion of an investigation. You may be able to launch an investigation directly from a signal from an existing data source out in the factory or anywhere in the enterprise system landscape here. Well, we skipped to that. Again, I just want to reiterate, there was supposed to be a couple other slides there, but I want to reiterate the workflow component of the system here. What we're talking about is presenting a very special, simple user interface, asking natural language questions, processing that with a very powerful natural language processing engine under the hood, presenting the relevant information in a way that the user can organize their information and use it to perform their task, and then finally allowing them to give feedback to the system, which makes it much more powerful over time. Again, the result here is reduce the time that it takes to resolve the deviation, give time back to the quality and engineering analysts to perform more high-valued functions, and unlock production capacity throughout the entire system. Thanks for your time and attention. Maybe we have a minute for questions. Yeah, we have 5 minutes for questions. Question, comment? Yeah, right. What kind of databases can it tie to? No, there's no specific format. We have the capability to attach to a wide variety of structured and unstructured data sources. There's quite a bit of capability in the graphing component of the solution to bring the relationships from those data sources into a system that will manage those relationships and improve over time. But there's really, at this point in the discussions we've had with customers, we really haven't run into any major obstacles or challenges on the types of data we can bring in. We're quite architected to really look at that variety of structured and unstructured. I'll make one comment about those data sources that I think is very important. What we find is that in a semi-structured environment where you have certain fields, the The gold mine in those systems is in the comments. Where those reports have been written over years and years and years by very experienced people describing a problem or describing a solution. And getting that information out, it is not possible with your traditional search and filter components. So natural language processing is very, very important to get the relevant information out of those fields and out of those systems. Yeah. Yeah. So that's a potential. So the question was, can we get those comments using OCR? So in the case that you had paper documents, we could process it that way, for example. But in most cases, what we're finding is those comments exist in a database, and we can access that database. A question?
Yeah, so kind of building on his comment there.
Yeah.
How do you incorporate the interpretation factor around those historical investigations? Because every company matures, as they get more experience with their different products, and the complexity increases, the number of products increases. So some of those investigations are good, some are not so good.
And some are not so good. That's an interesting point.
Your ability
Yeah.
to evaluate with the not so good.
Yeah. To rely, yeah, that's a good point. So we have to work very closely with the customer to understand their ontology and how they want to manage that into the process. So there could be a choice about which deviations we load into the process and which we don't. So that would be one way to handle it. The other thing we can do is just use that improvement capability over time. So for example, you might not give every person using the system the ability to help improve that model by the way they use it. You might only have certain users that you would use that feedback from. So that's a process of really looking at the validity of that data and the reliability of it. It's a really good point. It's something we actively discuss as we build the ontology for those specific customers. And I think really the first cut would be, well, what information do we put into this system that we believe could be reliable? And maybe it's a simple classification of the successful outcome or not of that investigation that we could use.
The second question is, are your performance metrics strictly speed and volume, or are there other sort of quality metrics associated with it?
It's a great question. So far, the projects that where we're measuring the business case outcome, or where the business case has been built, have been largely around reducing the time of that deviation resolution. We also do have some other customers that believe that also leads to unlocking some production capacity. So if I don't have to have products on hold or processes on hold while I do that, then I can also get some efficiency on production capacity. It's a bit more difficult to evaluate that before the deployment than it would be afterwards, but there's definitely some component there. I think also most of our customers are looking at, well, what if I can reduce the cost of compliance, the cost of quality, because eventually I'm going to have less deviations based on earlier signals or a more refined, as you said, a more refined knowledge base of how to mitigate those more quickly. So as we said, right now it's around the time spent on the deviations and then attaching that to efficiencies that we unlock related to that. But we do believe there's also a lot more to those business cases that will unfold as we put the system in place. And we also have customers looking at other processes around quality to include maintenance or R&D or any other knowledge sharing application to build the business case once we get the system in place. But you can imagine the amount of data and the types of data we could feed to the system could be exponential as we evolve. Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. What I would like to do is invite you guys to come by. We have a booth in the hall. We have the product manager for the solution here who can go into much deeper detail on the architecture, the structure, and the technical aspects. And of course, we can run through a few examples and business cases if you like.